Hello and welcome to Gentle Bamboo Shoots. These are small ideas we explore as we talk about them. We discuss ideas and theories around education, training, learning, and development. And we're not entirely sure where these are going, but some of them are going to hit a mark someday. We'll see if this one does. Hi, Rakshit. Welcome.
Hey, Vilash, I am quite excited about this. We've had these conversations about our ideas for so long. It's the first time I think we're doing this for what might potentially be an audience.
Yeah. And these are going to be pretty much free form discussions where we have not put in a lot of thought in the past about this. There's no
Right,
script, but try to keep it tight then. Yeah, we still try to keep a self-contained idea within each video and we talk about it that way.
right, right.
The topic I want to talk about today is called
Mhm.
Hogwarts. Have you heard of this?
Yes, I love Hogwarts.
All
I,
right.
I
So
used to read a lot of Harry Potter growing up. Big fan. And I remember age of around, I think 14, 15, 16. We used to have Harry Potter quizzes in the apartment that we lived, where a particular child would take the onus of being the quiz master, and about six, seven others would come together, and we would have these intense quiz contests styled after Bone Meter quiz contest, which at that point of time was a rage. So yeah.
So yeah, all right. So what I want to explore today, and I am a big Potterhead as well as
Mhm.
you know, and I hope the reader will find out over time, is that or listener rather will find out over time, is the idea of Harry Potter is that it uh, encompasses such a vast world. There is so much to learn from the books. And today, what I want to explore with you, Rakshit, is the idea that they had a lot of teachers,
Mhm.
the school, and
Mhm.
each teacher pretty much brought an amazing kind of teaching style. Some were good, some was mediocre, some were bad, some were extraordinary. And what I want to do in the next 15 odd minutes is to explore a few ideas around what we can learn from the teachers of Hogwarts. uh, Let me throw some names around. We'll talk about, say, McGonagall.
Okay,
We will talk about Lupin a bit. We
sure.
will talk about the most controversial teacher and character, to be honest, Severus
Right.
Snape.
Mhm.
And we will explore between these three people what teaching styles they had, what impact they had on their students, and what we as education professionals, educators, learners, facilitators, whatever area we are coming from, what can we learn from these amazing teachers, all of them. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Do the three names that I suggested sound okay to you?
Yeah, I think we can start there. We can start there. Uh,
Okay. McGonagall, then. I
McGonagall.
give you McGonagall.
Right. Um, McGonagall comes off as someone who is very strict in the books, right? And while there is a lot of practical application in her teaching, I remember very clearly this incident, I think that is referred to in the first book, in
Mhm.
Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, where Harry and Ron are very excited. Harry, I think, is very excited that you could turn inanimate objects into different animals, but is then immediately disappointed that he's not going to be able to do that anytime soon, and there is a lot of theory he has to learn before he can get to that point. And
Right.
that kind of stuck with me as kind of characterizing McGonagall as a teacher who's very by the book, right? Who has a clear syllabus in mind, a clear plan in mind, and is going to lead the students down that path. In that, there is scope for experimentation, possibly, but not as much. As a trainer or a teacher, I am in control, and I'm not going to hand over control of my class to kids. Or at least that was the impression I had when I first read about McGonagall, looking back. What about you?
I actually come from a slightly different viewpoint about her, in that I want to believe that she is two personalities.
Mhm.
One which is the teacher, the other is the person or the witch with the magical powers, right? So she
Right.
has a bit of that rebel streak in her. She is fiercely loyal to the people that she likes and she loves. She is very, very impartial when it comes to her being a teacher, unlike another person we're going to talk about today. the
Right.
the thing that I carry from her, or rather love about her, is that she is one of the probably only teachers in Hogwarts who had a work life and a social life which were totally separate from each other, in the sense that
Right.
you do not ever find out anything about her husband, her family, what her life is, what does she do in during Christmas, and stuff like that, right? So she
Mhm.
is here, she does her job fabulously well. She is
Mhm.
strict, yes, like some
Mhm.
teachers are, and you need to be with teenage kids. But
Mhm.
I think one big thing I kind of took away from her was, be good when you are doing the work, but when you're done with the work, learn also how to disconnect from it and kind of have a life separate from your work as well. Does that make sense?
It does, and it brings. You made a point earlier, which I also caught, where you said that at least the others that we're going to speak about today, let's say Lupin or Snape, they essentially their teaching style mirrors their personalities outside of
Yeah.
teaching as well, whereas McGonagall's doesn't. And so that brings me to a very interesting question I have. Maybe you can throw some light on this. Is what is the scope for authenticity as a teacher or a trainer? They usually say this, right? That when you go on stage, you want to be the same person on stage as you are off stage. You want to be the same person on a pedestal as you are off the pedestal. Now, is that still holding true, or how does this impact McGonagall's teaching style?
It's actually a very good question. Authenticity is good, but is not everything. That has been my take on this matter. Some
Mhm.
people are far too authentic. They're giving you a peek into every little bit of their life. That's not my style. If it makes sense to the subject at hand, authenticity is good. Otherwise, bringing in the your life into your teachings too much is, I think, doing a bit of a disservice to your students who have got no choice but to listen to it. They may not want to participate in that drama. And to that end, I believe that authenticity is good. But like I said, it's not everything. Forced authenticity, not my style, which is why I absolutely love McGonagall.
Right. No, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. But let's coming back to the teaching style, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, while I agree with you that possibly, and I do not know if it's at least not alluded to in the books. Her personal life is not alluded to in the books, at least, and it kind of, I know Rowling has kind of expanded on the canon in post the work, but we'll not get into that.
Yes.
But but coming back to her teaching style, I've always felt that while she's a strict person, she also comes across as someone who wants to have a clear grip on her class. Unlike, let's say, take a Lupin. Let's compare, right? Remus Lupin and his class again uh, feels a lot more joyous in the way that Rowling describes the classes and the way students are. Interacting in those classes, it feels like a lot more joyous. There's a lot more chaos, but it is fun chaos, right?
Right.
You get
Right.
more or less the same kind of vibe from Flitwick as well. Flitwick and Lupin, the same kind of
Right.
joyly verb as it is called,
Right.
which I don't think is ever alluded to
No.
in writing about McGonagall. So, what does that tell us about teaching styles? Both are effective as teachers. McGonagall
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
extremely effective as a teacher, and in that particularly memorable scene, she stands up for Harry against Umbridge and says, "I will coach you nightly, Potter, if I have to make you an order, and if that's the last thing I do, that's what I will do."
Yeah.
So there is that side to her, but her teaching style is still a lot more rigid. What are the parallels between that and the training uh, um, domain that we come from?
Right. So to be honest, I subscribe to the McGonagall School of Training to some extent
Yes,
myself
I
when I am
knew
doing
you
my.
did. I wanted you to say it.
Right. No, I do that, and I am like has been pointed out by many people, a bit of a control freak when it comes to having control over my training sessions, and I don't think of it as inherently either good or bad. If you're able to do justice to the subject at hand,
Mhm,
uh, this is good. See, joy. I hope I bring some joy into the training sessions that I do. I like to believe that fun is something that McGonagall created as well. It's just not the style. It's not the kind of fun that say a Lupin or a Flitwick did, but
mhm.
she had her style.
Right.
And my opinion in whether in my persona as an educator myself, or at times when I am the listener, I like educators who are not letting the inmates run the asylum, so to speak. And I know it's a term that is gets thrown around a lot, where you give a lot of control over, and you might say, I've got notes and this is exactly following as I wanted to, I'm covering everything that I wanted to. But
Mhm,
if you leave this doubt in a few people's mind at least, that
mhm,
because of some people talking too much, asking question after follow up question after follow up question, which you answered with extreme you know honesty, and took time away from, maybe took time away from the plan, the feeling that you leave with people, I am not comfortable leaving that feeling with my learners and participants.
No, that makes sense. And I know the amount of effort you put in before any session. I've seen you spend hours learning a particular type of shairi, getting the nuances just right, and no, anticipating the kind of questions that might come and the kind of jokes you can use. And in a way, I've also seen that with you, that level of preparation uh, frees you up to be more creative when you are delivering your program, which may not happen if you hadn't prepared this well. Is that hypothesis accurate, do you think?
Actually, I don't take too much creative liberties during the delivery of the program itself, but
Mhm.
I uh, l- give everything I can when we are doing the Q&A. For
Right,
me, the delivery of the planned program or the prepared program is sacrosanct. That should not be messed with.
right.
Q&A is good for whatever needs to be done.
Makes sense, makes sense. So personality aside, I think we're in agreement, right? That do you think then that um, I think we're in agreement more or less, right? That um, McGonagall leads a more trainer-centered classroom. Yes, she has empathy for her students, but is a trainer-centered classroom. Whereas Lupin leads a more student-centered classroom. Would that characterization be right in your mind?
I think yeah, and to a large extent, as much as I love reading about Lupin
Mhm.
and the impact that Lupin had on Harry, especially, or a few participants in
Right.
it is told, I wonder if he had the same kind of impact on the entire class. We always
Right.
talk about how Harry was this one chosen one on whom Lupin focused a lot and was able to, give him a lot of attention, bring him up, and all of that. But what about the other 25 odd people in that class? Does somebody worry about Parvati Patil? Does she get the same amount of attention that Harry got?
I
So, to that extent, what I
yeah.
believe is that a Lupin like style can be fantastic when it is applied to a small classroom in a coaching sort of environment where we have like 4 or 5 people maybe, and those people are being given immense amount of attention, and therefore it succeeds. You do this in a 25-30 people classroom, I'm not sure if you'll have the same kind of impact. Some people will remember you very fondly, but for others you're very forgettable.
I hear where you're coming from, but I also want to
Mhm.
believe, being a bit of a Lupin head, also, that
Mhm.
Lupin was able to manage that. Because I remember this one
Okay.
particular incident from Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I'm sure you do too, where they're fighting a Bogart, and Neville Longbottom is extremely scared of doing so because he's afraid that when he goes face to face the Bogart, he's going to see Professor Snape in front of him. And one, he doesn't want to be embarrassed in front of his class.
Right.
Two, he doesn't want to, doesn't want this bit of information to go back to Snape. And there's a lot of confusion in that 13-year-old's mind. And then Lupin, recognizing it, sort of helps him, while the rest of the class laughs when Longbottom says, "What's your biggest fear?" And Longbottom says, almost in a very scared tone, "Professor Snape." Lupin takes him seriously and says, "Well, I believe you live with your grandmother." And then I remember Neville's lines being, "I don't want the Bogart to turn into her either." And he says, "No, no, you misunderstand me. I want you to, uh, picture your grandmother in a particular style." And he helps him overcome that fear. So I want to believe somewhere that Lupin, or the style of Lupin's teaching is such that you are recognizing a student's difficulties and taking a very empathetic approach to teaching. And I think, broadly speaking, both McGonagall and Lupin have that empathy in teaching. There are many instances when you're talking about McGonagall where, Rowling talks about how there was a flicker in her eye and you could see the human behind the teacher for a moment,
Yes, yes,
right?
yes.
So,
So I'll tell you what, since we are any case having this argument where you are pro Lupin and I coming across a bit anti, let's stay that character and let's say as useful as doing that is, and I don't deny that for one moment, the ability to make a Longbottom fear a Snape less is a gift. To be able to do that in 15 minutes is great achievement. The problem with an approach like that is when it succeeds really well, you have two ways of doing it. One is what I was just pointing out, that you're impactful only for a few people because they are willing to ask you that question and interact with you in the training or classroom and so on. If you are able to have an impact on everybody, the amount of topics that you're going to cover are going to be far fewer than anybody else would be able to, because you are now giving an extreme amount of attention. Time is a bit of a problem whenever you're doing any sort of, and I am not even going away from Hogwarts yet. I have
yeah.
not come to the corporate classroom. Even within Hogwarts, there is a certain amount of time associated. Not everybody is either able or willing to come to your special classes and learn about the Patronus charm, and there is obviously quite a lot to be taken from Lupin. There is, however, that small conditions apply asterisk, which
Right.
is that he will either be able to make impact on a small bunch of people or
Mhm.
make a small impact on a big bunch of people. He'll never be able to create a big impact on a lot of people. That is my submission.
No, I take your point on time. I think that's a point well made. In fact, even in book three, Prisoner of Azkaban, I think when on a particular day, without giving any spoilers away, when Lupin is not able to take the class and Snape steps in, he makes the point that you are far too behind
Yeah,
for a group
right.
of third
Hmm.
year
Yeah.
students. So that's a fair point, which brings us very nicely
Hmm.
to Snape. And I have a slightly controversial point to make about Snape. I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Uh-huh.
I don't see too much of a difference in the teaching style, in the classroom style of Lupin and Snape. Their personalities are different, in that Lupin has a lot of fun chaos in his class. But I also believe that Snape, by probably because of the nature of the subject portions, has a very creative classroom. It is a classroom which, if we were going back to Bloom's taxonomy, is where you're learning by creating, right? You're actually brewing those portions. You're not, it is not just mindless wand waving, as Snape himself puts it so elegantly. Um, so teaching styles apart, and we can come to that in a bit. Uh, um, Empathy apart, my submission is that the classroom style is pretty similar in that both involve the participants having to learn by doing, albeit in Lupin's classroom, the way the class is structured, you are focusing a lot more on the students' interests, on the students' abilities, whereas in Snape's, you are still focused on the subject matter and Snape being the teacher in command, and being quite sarcastic and rather strict in the way he teaches, but both classrooms really sort of give a lot of weightage to learning by doing.
Right. Did you come to a massive conclusion here that Snape is a cross between McGonagall and Lupin?
Did I? You tell me. This is stream of consciousness now, so you tell me.
Ah, right then. Okay. I will roll with it. I'll roll with it. The I have disliked Snape from the moment he walks into the first classroom, like everybody in the world,
Mhm,
and I kind of continued that dislike
mhm.
till the point he dies, even though Rowling does her best to redeem him as a person. And I am not,
Spoilers. Oh,
I am not, I'm not, uh, how do I say? I'm not a big fan of either his personality
right.
or his teaching style,
Hmm,
right?
hmm.
However, I give you one thing, and once again, spoiler alert. Uh, the the thing somebody points out in the Half Blood Prince after the big reveal is that maybe uh, Snape was a great teacher when he was a kid, and it kind of got kicked out of him. You look at the book and the scribbled notes there and all of that, and somewhere I come to the conclusion that maybe maybe he had a flair for teaching, and
Right,
his hobnobbing with the dark arts turned him into a sour, bitter person, because of
mhm.
which, while he might have been very impactful as a teacher, still that was more prodigal than a cultivated skill. Does that make sense?
Right. No, I think that's an interesting take. That's an interesting take. It's more
Mm.
prodigal and less cultivated. So you are someone who is extremely good at your subject. You don't necessarily know, that doesn't mean you necessarily like teaching or know how to teach, but there is no questioning your subject matter expertise. Is that
Yeah, and to add another thing into this mix is that he has forever wanted to be the defense against the dark arts teacher,
Mhm.
and was pretty much forced to teach a subject which he was good at but not necessarily liked.
Right?
Add to that insult, more injury, that in his mind at least, an idiot after an idiot after an idiot coming and teaching that subject, it had
Right,
to have an impact on the subject that you are teaching as well. So
right,
maybe there is a moral here, and the moral is that maybe you are being paid for teaching something that you are not enjoying. Chances are you will not have as much impact in that topic, even though you may be good at it. As the
right,
Half Blood Prince reveal tells you, he is actually a brilliant potions master.
right,
And Harry goes on to claim that I have learned more from the Half Blood Prince book than I have ever learned from you, which is weird, but let's not
right.
spoil it. But the point is that he was great as a teacher, and his dislike of the subject kind of brought him down. And I am not pitying him in
Right.
any sense, except saying there is a big cautionary tale here, that don't keep going down a road where you are not enjoying what you're doing, and maybe consider coming towards something that you do like.
That's a very interesting point. As you were speaking, what struck me was um, Snape's style and compared to Slughorn's style, right? Slughorn, the potions master who comes after Snape, both teach potions pretty much the same way. This is a teacher who asks asks you to follow instructions, go on and brew those potions. He's walking around and correcting students. And the only difference seems to be that Snape has these character flaws which really are not motivating the students. They seem to actively discourage the students to do well. And even when they are doing well, he cannot he cannot praise them, or does not praise them. Whereas Slughorn has a far more genial approach to the same class, right? And maybe that's because, Slughorn likes teaching portions, whereas Snape doesn't.
It could be. And to a large extent, we have only ever seen one teacher change their subject, haven't we? Am I remembering this right? Has anybody changed their subject from what they were teaching
No.
to something else other than Snape? So we don't have a great comparison point to make here, but
Right.
at least in the canon,
Right.
and I don't even want to go there. The
Okay.
he Snape claims as such, or other people know for a fact that he is after the Dada position, and he does not want to be doing what he's doing, and his dismay at seeing a Quirrell and then a Lockhart and then an Umbridge maybe, and his
Right.
worst enemy coming in and doing it. So all of this has got to take a toll on him. And
Right.
that said, I the one great thing I liked today about this discussion was how Snape could possibly be the love child of Lupin and McGonagall. Oh damn!
Yeah, no, all character flaws aside, if you were to look at
Yeah.
Snape's teaching style objectively, right?
Mhm.
Forget the fact that he does not have uh, the good demeanor or the motivational spirit that a teacher or a trainer needs to have. But just if you were to analyze classroom styles, I think there is while I would characterize Lupin as chaos and fun, and I would characterize uh, um, uh,
McGonagall.
McGonagall as the style of Monica from the Friends, who has a very rigid style but is still fun, right? And somehow I feel like Snape gets the best of creativity because of the way he teaches. In that it is potions, you brew it, you have to learn by doing, but at the same time, is not letting the students learn the way they want to. He wants to maintain a certain level of control. So maybe there is something there, right? It's that right
Oh yeah.
mix between training and facilitation, I suppose.
Yeah. The problem, however, with Snape, quite similar to Lupin, but with disastrous effects, is that his personality seeps in too much into his training style or teaching style. In a
Right.
Lupin, because the personality itself is amiable, the students have more fun. But because the personality here is one of who, a martyr, a person who has suffered at the altar of his love and his, ambition and all of that, that
Right.
sourness and that bitterness to a large extent comes into his teaching style, and kind of takes away from his existing teaching skill rather than add to it. I think that's what I would conclude.
That is interesting. I have enjoyed this conversation. What did we learn? Did we learn anything? I
Yeah.
mean, apart from a great
Snape's
conversation about
parentage.
Harry Potter.
No, this was fun. This was fun. I think there is what is okay. Let's put each other on the spot then.
Right.
Who do you identify with most, and who do you identify with least? The three people we have talked.
Hmm. I feel like we're playing Kill, Marry, Hook Up now. Uh, I, 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 I've always tried to follow Lupin's model,
Mhm.
right? I've tried to follow Lupin's model, but I think there are tendencies where I slip into a McGonagall model, right? Uh, um, because I have also noticed that when I let my participants have control over the session, sometimes, at least when I started out in training, right, my lack of experience meant that I completely lost track of what we were supposed to do, and
Right.
I used to end the session feeling that I have not given as much value as I could have. While the
Mhm.
participants still felt like it was fun, we had these interesting discussions, and this was a good session. I used to go away feeling, Yeah, but what did you learn that you did not already know if most of the input came from you, right? So
Mhm.
I feel that way. Uh,
Yeah.
Today, as we were speaking, I think I want to move towards a Snape type of classroom, though, where there is a balance between, uh, creativity and control. Uh, but in terms of demeanor as a facilitator, I would much rather be a Lupin and have a classroom much rather like a Snape, if that makes sense.
Oh, all right then.
What about you?
Okay. I I would I won't say never, but I wouldn't actively go towards a Lupin style session. And it's good for our business because if we both were alike, then we could not offer enough variety to our clients. But my style is one of McGonagall. I know for a fact. And even before we started this discussion, I knew this is where I was going towards. And I I I let people work a bit, do some creation and all of that. However, purely in terms of retaining control of the classroom, and not because of some ulterior motive that I'm a control freak, although some people do call me that. Uh, it is because I want to believe that uh, say 50 people are in the class, and it's a class of 2 hours, right?
Right,
100 hours are at stake.
right.
I don't want to spend 50 hours of that people just letting them talk to each other and express themselves to the point where no learning happens, where they are either praising each other's, making jokes at each other's expense and doing stuff like that. And I have tried it. I'm not dissing it. I've tried
Mhm.
it, and I have always found that the amount of value that can come from a well prepared trainer, uh, at least in my mind, at least in my classroom, does not come from one that lets the inmates run the asylum. So that's a long answer. The quick answer is that McGonagall is my style. I do not like the Lupin style of training, and I don't think I'm cruel enough to become a Snape.
That's fair. That's fair. I love that answer. I do want to make a quick point, though. I think for both of us, to figure out, maybe in one of the Trainer's Journey podcast that we're doing, to have an in-depth conversation with someone who has a far more facilitative style and understand the method behind the madness and the experience they bring. Because I'm pretty sure they would say that, I go into my classrooms as prepared as you, except that I'm okay with the I know exactly what I'm doing when I let my participants free,
Right,
right?
right.
And so that conversation might be very interesting to have to understand what and how they go about doing that.
Sure, sure. I think that would be actually a very welcome distraction away from just talking about what you don't want. How about calling a loop in and figuring out how do you succeed?
Yes, so to the Lupins out there, contact us.
All right then. Hey, this was fun. This was fun. I think we should do this more.
Yeah, I started this quite skeptical, but yeah, I'm a convert.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. And you, dear viewer slash listener, if you like this, let us know. And in the classic style of every YouTube video ever, share, subscribe, and like. I don't know what it does, but do it. It'll make us feel good. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye bye.
thank you.